NATO chief confirms North Korean troops engaged in war against Ukraine. What will first Putin to change the way he wages war, and how China and India can help negotiate end to Putin's war in Ukraine? We will talk about this with Michael Sheitelman, a political strategist based in Kyiv. Michael, glad to see you, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good evening.
Michael, North Korean soldiers transported to Frontline in lorries with civilian plates, reported by Ukrainian intelligence intercept. Thousands of North Korean troops are now in Russia, preparing to help Russian dictator Vladimir Putin's war of conquest in Ukraine. How do you think will participation of North Korean soldiers in war change situation at front? Because now we can only guess at how well equipped they are or how well trained they will be relative to battle-hardened Ukrainian forces.
Yeah, first, this bringing troops in civilian lorry is war crime, by the way. But okay, let's move to another to the question itself. First, we don't know exactly. We have no information which kind of troops they bring. It could be just regular troops or some special forces or, for example, artillery, or maybe they are officers, maybe they are just soldiers, and we have no information. But we have information that they are moving without any special equipment, as I understand. So if they are artillery soldiers, for example, so probably they will use the artillery which North Korea supply to Russian forces. North Korea supplied to Russian forces also artillery and also the shells. Half of the shells on the front line, they're North Korean source. So we have minimal information. But I believe the main question is how they could be integrated inside Russian forces. Because the Russians, they have about 3,000, as far as I understand, 3,000 North Korean troops. I can't believe they will use it as the special North Korean unit. Obviously, they will somehow separate these people between the Russian units. And the question is how to communicate with them, how to organize the communication between North Korean and Russians. We also saw some videos from Russian troops from Russian front line that they have something like lessons of North Korean language, let's say, lessons of Korean language and books about Korean language. And it was rather fun for Russian forces because they just start from scratch. We don't know any word in this language. So as a result, how it could influence, I believe that this part of North Korean army, these 3,000 troops, this is just something like test. This is not for real military usage. For real military usage in front line. It looks like Mr. Putin and his army, they just want to try if it is at all possible to integrate North Korean soldiers towards Russian units. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Michael, the Wall Street Journal has reported it is possible that North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un might have sent younger soldiers to Russia aged under 20 and without appropriate military training. So, as you said, we have not enough information about North Korean troops, but we will see later a little bit. About NATO Secretary General confirms presence of North Korean military in Kursk region today, and before that we have statement. U.S. National Security Coordinator John Kirby said that North Korean troops presumably deployed to Kursk region, but unclear why. Quote, that said, we believe that is certainly possible, and I'll just go so far as to say perhaps even likely that at least some of these North Korean troops could be deployed to the Kursk area. But in what capacity, for what purpose, that still remains unclear. It is so strange to hear from U.S. National Security Coordinator that he don't know why North Korean troops can deployed to Kursk region, isn't it? Why we get such reaction? How do you think?
Well, because all the information comes only from satellite. So from satellite, we can see only that, okay, there's the troops. And we could see how they crossed the border, for example, from North Korea by train or, I don't know, by boat maybe. But probably European Union and NATO and also White House, we don't have any intelligence information from inside of Russian army till yet. Yeah, that fact why we move exactly towards Kursk region. It is connected to the Russian law, to the Russian legislation. The new Russian law and new Russian agreement with between Russia and North Korea, as mentioned Mr. Putin on his last press conference last week. It is agreement about the defense, not about participation in any war, but only in defense in case that enemy penetrated your territory. And our army, Ukrainian army, penetrated Russian territory only in Kursk district. So from formal point of view, from the point of view of the Russian legislation, Russia could use these troops only inside Russian territory, so only inside Kursk region. It means by this law. But it doesn't say anything, because during this war, we don't see Russia exactly follow its own legislation or exactly follow international legislation in this case.
South Korea promised to take staged measures against North Korea and Russia through deepening military cooperation, and also called on North Korea to immediately withdraw its troops from the Russian Federation. May South Korea transfer lethal weapons to Ukraine amid the deployment of North Korean soldiers to Russia? Currently, Seoul does not officially provide military aid to Ukraine. South Korea provides humanitarian and financial assistance now.
It looks like South Korea take it seriously, more seriously than Pentagon or our Western allies. South Korea declared also before this fact of sending troops, of North Korea sending troops. It was half a year ago. At the moment, then Russia and North Korea they informed about this new agreement, about this new defense agreement. So South Korea declared that it will send ammunition and shells towards Ukraine officially. This is not officially, but officially. So now they just follow this fact, and they will do the next step, sending the shells and sending ammunition towards Ukraine. Till now, till this point, South Korea only sent us financial help and humanitarian help. Last year, it is about $2.5 billion, the aid from South Korea towards Ukraine. But South Korea supplies, for example, ammunition and tanks towards Polish army. And Polish army afterwards sent us Polish-owned tanks. So it was non-official way to supply our army with South Korean weapon. From formal point of view, it was not South Korean weapon, it was Polish weapon, not South Korean. But now, South Korea, they are ready to take the next step. And this is very important. Why this is very important? Because South Korea is the biggest producer of NATO standard ammunition outside of NATO. South Korea is on 5th or 6th place in the world in the production of military goods, but it is second or third when they're speaking about NATO standards after US and I believe after Great Britain, after United Kingdom. So they have a lot of stuff which could help our army. Especially this is shells, artillery shells. In the Russian army, they used till now, this year, 2024, they used 1.5 million artillery shells from North Korea. So if we receive the same amount from South Korea, it could balance this balance of artillery on the front line. So that is very important. But South Korea also not stop on that. They also are ready to send the personnel, at least advisors, military advisors towards Ukraine. And now we see how important this fact is for Russia. Because Russian foreign ministry, they also did some, I don't know how to say that, but at least they published some notice about South Korean participation in the war. And they said that Russia will take steps against South Korea.
So we are waiting for this help by South Korea. If we're talking about troops and also about weapons, as you said, also experts warn of a serious threat from the Union of Eurasian dictatorship formed by Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. Specialists assert that this cooperation is of considerable magnitude and may provoke negative consequences for the international order. One of the experts, Nicholas Eberstad, in his article in the Washington Post, noted that the loyalty of countries to one another in military affairs and arms supply is unprecedented and compares it to the Axis powers cooperation during World War II. This union of Eurasian dictatorship formed by Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, how dangerous it can be for the whole world? What are the consequences for Ukraine and its Western supporters?
No, at this stage we could put apart a little apart China, because now what we see as facts is participation of Iran and North Korea in this Russian-Ukrainian war. And when I mentioned the shells of North Korean shells, and so Russians, they also use Iranian shells. And from total artillery shells on front line, only 35% were Russian, from Russian sources, 50% from North Korean, and 15% from Iran. Also, Russia uses, as we know, the drones from Iran, and also missiles from Iran and missiles from North Korea. So, obviously, North Korea and Iran, they take significant role in this war. But also, they simultaneously, they take some role in Middle East war, in the war of terrorist organizations against Israel. Hamas and Hezbollah were financed by Iran and the Russian Federation, and also they're equipped by Iran and the Russian Federation. Usually, when world news agencies they speak about Hezbollah, for example, they speak about this like Iranian organization. But the Israel Defense Army, then they come to South Lebanon, they found the tunnels of Hezbollah with a lot of Russian weapons. And also we have a fact that Russian intelligence services, they provided information towards Hamas. And Hamas used this information for attacking Israel. So this union, we're not only enemies of Ukraine, we're also enemies of Israel simultaneously, and we're preparing the war against South Korea. It doesn't start, but okay, we believe that also of this union of three countries will participate in this war, in potential war against South Korea. But then they put inside China, it is questionable. Now it is questionable, because we are seeing that China, we are not ready to 100% cooperate with Russia. We are not ready 50% cooperate with Russia, because they not supply, they are not openly supply any military equipment. And Western intelligence services like CIA and MI6, they not once said that there is no sign that China supply any military goods to Russia. They can sell something which could be used in military production, but not tanks, not shells, not something like that. And second, China is de facto participating in financial sanctions against Russia. China banks, they don't agree to receive money from Russia in many, many positions. And also they not agree to receive so-called Russian yuan. Yuan is Chinese money, and Chinese money, which were used in Russian stock exchange, foreign stock exchange, were not receivable from Russia towards China. So de facto, China participates in the financial sanctions by US. So now China is rather choosing the side in this World War III, let's call that. If China will choose the side of terrorist states, Iran, North Korea, and Russia, so this Eurasian Union, as you called it, will be very, very, very dangerous, obviously, and it will be dangerous for all the world. If China chooses our side, the side of Western countries, and not only Western, because South Korea and Japan is also on our side. So vice versa, we will be the strong side in this war.
Michael, if China choose our side, how Xi Jinping can help negotiate end to Putin's war in Ukraine?
Xi Jinping till now is not a good negotiation. No, really. His plan, so-called plan about peace in Ukraine, it is also not a plan. The first plan, which was published a year and a half ago, and was called Chinese position about Ukrainian crisis or something like that, and consisted of 12 points. It was not a plan because it didn't include any steps. What to do, what we are doing with this plan. And the same situation was then China and Brazil, they published a common plan. Again, 6 points, but without any practical steps, what we should do. This is like, okay, we wish to bring peace to Ukraine. That's it. But how to bring it, what to do, it is not obvious. But what China can do, and what China, let's say, very close to do, is China can stop supplying Russia by any goods, not only by directly speaking military goods. And we're close to that. We have a report, some reports, I can't say this is trustable, very trustable reports, but some reports that starting from November 1st, China will stop to supply anything which is connected to military production towards Russia. And this is huge step. Because Russians, they can't produce anything without China. They depend on Chinese supply by 60-70% of any goods, I mean. So if China, by any way, really want to stop the war, it will be enough not to pay for oil towards Russia and not to supply any goods. And war will stop during 1 month, I believe.
Michael, about Russia's ability to continue the war, the Washington Post has reported that the Kremlin's extensive spending on the war against Ukraine is pushing Russia's economy into overdrive, but it retains enough resources to sustain the war for another few years. The newspaper notes that heavy military spending, including high payments to the occupying military, has contributed to economic growth as well as high wages and inflation, as companies are forced to match military salaries to attract workers. Do you agree that Russia can afford to fund its war on Ukraine for several more years because of massive oil revenue and Western sanctions failures? As, for example, the Washington Post reported.
I read today this article from Washington Post, and they bring exact facts about the inflation and about interest rate of Russian central bank and about salaries, etc., etc., etc. But these ideas about what what is the consequences of these facts, they brought it from, let's say, only one or two opinions. Exactly this opinion about Russia is ready to stay on the same economical balance a few years, it was the opinion of Mr. Inozemtsev, who is very trustable and very important economist, yeah, but he is only one person. This is not the opinion of scientific society. This is opinion of one person, one economist. And as you know, in economy is not mathematics and not physics. So any economist has his own or her own view on the same problem. From the same facts, they could bring the different opinion on the end. But what is the consensus about that? First, that sanctions, on one hand, they works, and they bring Russia to this situation. And Washington Post published the facts that, for example, 40% of federal budget next year will be used for the war. 40%. This is a huge figure. And this figure is 8% of GDP of Russian Federation. 8%. And this is only the published part, because in Russian federal budget they have also secret part, which is additional 30%. Additional 30% of the budget. So then we compare this 40% for military, 30% is closed points, it's about security or something. So only another 30%, it is the budget for all the social politics and all the, teachers, doctors, medical, etc., and culture, etc., etc. So it is very difficult to stay with this budget. I remember that Soviet Union collapsed. Then military spending of Soviet Union were 9% of GDP. And why I remember this fact till now, till 2024, because Mr. Putin mentioned that in one of his speeches this year. He mentioned that Soviet Union collapsed when its military spending were 9% of GDP. So now Russia have officially 8% of GDP, non-officially, when we put together security and military, so it will be about 11 or 12% of GDP. So Russia is in the same position. So it is difficult to say, to give any forecast. I am not economist to give this economical forecast. But on one hand, sanctions work. On the other hand, and this is also the idea which I bring from Washington Post, not my own idea, that there is not enough Western sanctions on Russia, because this price, $60 per barrel of Russian oil, it is too high now. And the next step which European Union could take is to decrease this cap of $60 per barrel and to push the additional effort to crash Russian economy with this step.
About what else mentioned Putin, yesterday Russian terrorists said on Sunday that the Russian Defense Ministry is working on various ways to respond if the United States and its Western allies approve long-range strikes by Ukraine deep into Russian territory with Western weapons. Putin told to Russian propagandist Pavel Zarubin that it was still too early to say how Russia would react to such a decision, but he said Moscow would have to respond. But how? We are waiting for decision from our partners to strike deep into Russian territory. But the first question, how, if we're talking about that propagandist Pavel Zarubin said that it was still too early to say how Russia would react to such a decision, how do you think, how?
Okay, this guy, Pavel Zarubin, he is not a real journalist. He is some guy who usually used by Putin to bring messages. Exactly when he want to bring some message. So he called this guy and they organize something like, which is like, looks like interview. So obviously Mr. Putin, when he said that, he meant something certain, not any abstract answer for this decision, because anybody know that any answer he could give. So I believe it was the Mr. Putin's decision to hit by missiles Ukrainian nuclear plants, nuclear electrical plants, yeah. And Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine also said about that last week. And yesterday some military specialists, I don't remember who exactly, but from Ukraine top commanders, were also said that we are fear that Russia will hit nuclear plants inside Ukraine this winter.
But also, we remember that only several weeks before the US presidential election, Putin changed Russia's nuclear doctrine to intimidate the West in response to discussion of allowing long-range strikes against Russia. Michael, I also want to talk about BRICS because the annual BRICS summit took place in Kazan, Russia on October 22nd to 24th, gathering 36 world leaders. Nearly all BRICS member country leaders attended in person, except for Brazilian President Lula da Silva, who joined virtually due to a head injury. Can we say that Moscow's attempts to impose the idea of an allegedly alternative position of the so-called Global South on Russian aggression against Ukraine have failed once again?
Yeah, BRICS, it looks like the only thing we should not care about. Not alike Korean forces, which is very serious, and not alike the Korean missiles and some other Russian military efforts, which are very serious. But this BRICS looked like, really some club of pensioners who gathered together to eat some beautiful food. That's it. Because all of these countries, they are 11 now. We started from 4 countries when we were BRIC. And afterwards, they added South Africa. It was 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, I don't remember. But last year, we added 6 countries more, included United Arab Emirates and Ethiopia and Iran. So now, this club is something which can't work, absolutely can't work. I read the final declaration of this BRICS meeting. And the final declaration of this BRICS meeting consists of 134 points. 134 points. That's unbelievable. You can't find anything that consists of 134 points. It means that absolutely senseless and useless. Nobody could read it de facto, yeah? And these points were, for example, like point number 67. BRICS are very happy that India cares about the rights of big cats. Cats, yeah, really. And next point, for example, that BRICS is very concerned about what happens in Haiti Island, for example. And next point is something about artificial intelligence. And next point about the weather on Sri Lanka, for example. No, unbelievable. So this is unbelievable bullshit, all of these BRICS. And they can't make any decision. These countries, they just can't make any common decision because they have different economical system. Part of them are have free economy, and part of them free government economy. They have different authorities, like part of them are autocrats, and part of them dictatorships, and part of them are democracies. So they just can't do anything together. And the idea of Mr. Putin was to bring 2 things, de facto. One, ideological, is to make from this union anti-American union, and it didn't work. Why? Because India are not ready to be anti-American, because India is very closed ally of United States and depends on the United States. And United Emirates were very close friends of US, and their army consists of American military forces, etc., etc. So we are not ready. These countries are not ready to be anti-American. Next, we are not ready to, for example, the question of being new to take our new members to BRICS. And there was a question about Turkey. And India said, no, we are not ready to sit in Turkey in the same organization, because Turkey were allies of Pakistan, and India and Pakistan, they are in war now, in physical war now. So it didn't work. And the last is the idea of Mr. Putin to build independent financial system of BRICS, as anything which is opposite to US dollar and to Western system. So Mr. Putin brought to this meeting the idea, and not only idea, but banknotes of BRICS, fake banknotes of BRICS. And other representatives, they didn't support it by any way. We are not ready to be in different in separate financial system, separate from dollar, which means to be under American sanctions. We are not ready to be under American sanctions for helping Russian Federation and Iran.
Michael, you remembered about good food, and Antonio Guterres seemed very happy to be filmed on arrival at the BRICS summit in Kazan, posing in front of cameras to take a big bite of chak-chak. And not even chak-chak. In a statement ahead of Guterres' visit to Kazan, the Ukrainian foreign ministry said that this is a wrong choice that does not advance the cause of peace. It only damaged the UN's reputation. Also, Volodymyr Zelensky has rejected a visit to Ukraine by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres over his trip to Russia, a source in the presidential office has told the BBC. After attending a BRICS summit in the Russian city of Kazan this week, also Guterres had wanted to visit Kyiv. Your first reaction on this news, when Guterres came to the BRICS summit?
Well, it ruined the idea of United Nations, because Mr. Guterres, he is in charge of UN, so obviously he is in charge on International Criminal Court, which was established by UN. And Mr. Putin, he is somebody who is criminal by this court. Who is criminal and who didn't appear in this court in time. So obviously Mr. Guterres could come to Russia only with one goal: to arrest Mr. Putin and to bring him to the Hague, to this International Criminal Court, and not to eat chak-chak, which is Tatarian dessert, Tatarian food, in Kazan. So now it is very difficult for us, for Ukraine, to communicate with United Nations when we are knowing that the chairman of this organization de facto participate with Mr. Putin in this criminal case. He is now the partner of very dangerous criminal Mr. Putin. And this is not the first. We, Ukraine, we are not the first country who has a problem with this Mr. Guterres. Last month, Israel proclaimed that it is banned to Mr. Guterres to come to Israel because of Mr. Guterres' support of terrorist organizations, Hamas and Hezbollah. And now I just can to make a quote from Mr. Biden and from Ursula von der Leyen, chairman of European Commission. They said that Hamas, Hezbollah and Russian Federation, it is the same. And Mr. Guterres, he is also on the side of Hamas, Hezbollah and Russian Federation, so he is on the side of international terrorists.
Michael, thank you for this interesting conversation. Thank you for supporting our country. And to say that Michael Sheitelman, a political strategist based in Kyiv, was with us today. Thanks for our audience. Subscribe on our YouTube channel, like this video, comment, and see you soon.
Thank you.